You're tuned into RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's RBLR Sports.
4 seconds left. In front. Happy moment. The Tampa Bay Lightning have won the first Stanley Cup. And the Tampa Bay Lightning have won the Stanley Cup. Lightning strikes twice. The Tampa Bay Lightning win their second straight Stanley Cup.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to RBR Lightning. As always, my name is Jake Ricker. Alongside me, we got the full crew today: Matt Gannon, Joe Zamataro, and Michael Wax. Guys, today's going to be a fun episode. I don't know if you're ready. I'm sure it's not ready to go through this, but we got a lot to talk about. We're going to be hitting the draft. We're going to be hitting the moves that were made at the draft, and of course, we will be talking about the departure of one Steven Stamkos, who was officially signed in Nashville with the Predators. And then, of course, we'll be going over the awards ceremony, too. It's a real great, positive, sunshine episode. But first and foremost, guys, how you doing today?
No, Jake, how are you doing?
we may have had like a suicide watch, have somebody go to your door, knock on it just for a wellness check.
Yeah.
You good, bud?
No, I am not doing okay. I am very upset about the whole situation. We'll get all into it in a little bit, but this has been not a fun day, and I'm sure it is for a lot of Lightning fans, or for every Lightning fan, I would say. Some are more upset than others. Some have a better grasp on the situation like these guys do. I have gone down the rabbit hole, but we'll get into all that. Hopefully this show will make everybody feel a little bit better. So we got a lot to talk about today. How are you guys doing, though?
I think we're all kind of the four horsemen of the apocalypse right here. Every one of us is feeling a bit of a different emotions here. I'm kind of confused on how I'm feeling. Like, I'm still kind of positive. Of course, I'm bummed, but just what a week it has been with the Sergachev trade, Jeannot getting traded, Stamkos leaving, Jake Gensel coming to town. It's a mix of emotions in my world right now. I'm not as doom and gloom as you, Jake, but Joe, how are you feeling about this?
I mean, there's a lot to process, a lot to tackle. In terms of my emotions on it, there's obviously some mixed stuff. Stamkos being, gone is big, but we also had some acquisitions. And then looking all over, this was like a really active free agency this go round, and there's so much to digest all around the league too. I mean, this was a kind of a crazy, what'd you say, last, would it be like 72 hours or so, starting with like draft?
I would say it goes beyond that, like even talking about how angry we all got at the awards show, which was like a fun kind of anger, but anger nonetheless. Today has been interesting, for sure. Starting in the morning with the contract news of Gensel and then ending it with the captain heading out the door. So let's get into the show.
Let's get into that show. If you guys are joining us for the first time here, really appreciate you guys hanging out. Should be a fun one. Don't forget, we are live here today. If you don't want to miss out on future live episodes, be sure to follow us on social media at RBLR Lightning or at RBLR Sports. If you guys want to throw some comments down in there and want to talk about what we are chatting about, please do. We'll throw those comments up on screen when we see them. I see we already have one from Daniel. We'll get to that in a little bit here, Daniel. Don't worry. And if you're coming back on the regular, and you guys want to support our show, we really appreciate it. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Help us out a lot. Hit that share button so we can all have some fun today talking about some tougher news. But let's start off with one of the fun things, and that's the draft. Because, listen, the Lightning didn't have a ton of picks. They didn't have a lot of early picks. They didn't pick until the fourth round, but they did have some draft picks. There's a lot of new guys coming in. I'm not going to go through all these guys. A lot of them are late seventh-round picks, and, there's not a ton of information out there on them, but hey, it could be the next Andre Palat or the next, Braden Point even was a late round pick. Heck, Nikita Kucherov was even technically a late round pick. He went in the second round. He's a guy that would have gone in the first. So these guys could turn into a couple of big players. I will say this one name I do want to point out was Hagen Burrows. I think he was one of the most exciting guys that we got for two reasons. One, because He's a former Lightning fan, or still a Lightning fan, I should say, not former. But the Lightning posted some pictures of him in his Lightning gear as a kid, next to the Stanley Cup at Amalie Arena, which was really cool. So that was fun to see. Also, the big other reason too is he was named Mr. Minnesota, which is an award given out by the state for the best high school hockey player that season. And Jason Shagabe, I hope I'm saying that right, also won that award too. So the Lightning now have 2 players that have formerly won Mr. Minnesota. So that's pretty cool. That's probably my one guy I would say, hey, let's keep our eye on him a little bit. He could be a fun player to watch in the future. And just officially here, the Lightning drafted 1 defenseman, 1 goaltender, and 5 forwards with 7 total picks. So they went a little heavy on the forwards, which I was a little surprised about. But hey, we got a defenseman, which we do need help there. We got another goaltender, which we do not have a lot of those prospects there as well. So yeah, overall, a decent draft. I don't know if you guys got to catch any of it. It was really cool having it in Vegas as well. I thought that was awesome.
It was a really cool show. And I do also want to point out that Nick Perbix also won Mr. Minnesota as well some years ago. So there's another
and Daniel just posted in it.
There we go. I guess this is the Minnesota team. No, that's really cool about Hagen Burrows, being a Bolts fan. I wonder how that all started. Is he born and raised in Minnesota? I don't know a lot about the kid, but it's still really cool seeing, somebody, a Bolts fan being Distant Thunder and then getting drafted to that team. I think that is really cool.
Yeah, no, it's awesome for sure. And I'm excited to see how some of these kids turn out. I don't know where they're all going to exactly end up, whether they'll be back in playing college for a little bit, or if they'll be with the Syracuse Crunch. We'll find more of that information out as it gets closer to training camp and development camp and all that fun stuff, which those dates did come out. So that's something we'll talk about in some future shows. But that was your basic draft stuff for the Lightning. And then you get into the trades that happen, which were probably the biggest news when it comes to the Bolts for the trade. Let's start with the little less shocking one, because we can jump to that one a little quicker, and then we'll get to the one that literally had people gasping when it was announced at the draft. But the first trade, of course, was with Tanner Jeannot. The Lightning traded Tanner Jeannot to the Los Angeles Kings in exchange for a second-round pick in 2025 and pick 118 in 2024. Now, this is big news, obviously, because as we all remember, and we have talked many times on this show, the Lightning paid a hefty price for Tanner Jeannot. Unfortunately, things just didn't quite work out here in Tampa Bay, as we may have all hoped. He was a fantastic fighter, but his scoring touch that the Lightning hoped would continue to elevate just wasn't there. They needed to clear some cap space, we thought, for Steven Stamkos. Nope, we'll get to that in a little bit. But that was the trade for Tanner Jeannot, kind of a cap clearing move. It's unfortunate. The Lightning take a big loss on this one when it comes to the exact assets that they had to move on from, but something that, guys, I think had to be done at some point.
Who wants to start?
I kind of disagree that it had to be done. I don't think that he got a fair shake here in Tampa at all. He was injured for a lot of the season, and he was playing with what could arguably be described as a bunch of bums. No one was putting up points at all on those bottom 6 lines, and to think that somebody that gets all his goals from right in front of the net, you have to have people around you being able to generate offense. He was tipping pucks in when he was doing all of his scoring. He was deflecting pucks and just using his big body as a screen. But the other players around him aren't able to maintain possession in the offensive zone. There goes all of those assets and attributes that he's bringing to the table as more of a power forward. So he didn't really get a good look here in Tampa, and I'm really disappointed that he was traded, mostly because I think it's something that could have worked out, especially if you put the right guys around him, and I don't think that he was ever, put in a scenario to succeed. What is I guess kind of noble is that JBB fell on his own sword with it. We put all those picks up, and he admitted that it was a bad call, considering that he traded him away without fully realizing if it would ever work out.
Joe, you bring up a good point. I probably used the wrong words. I was saying, when I said that it's something that probably needed to happen, it's because I was thinking, at the time originally, like, oh, we're clearing cap space to go do a bunch of things and get guys like Steven Stamkos back. That ended up not being the case.
Well, you're right on both. Yeah, you're right on both points. It probably needed to happen in a sense that he wasn't producing, and a lot of people were thinking, besides just making room for Stamkos, that somebody else could have slotted into that spot. Also, he was probably the easiest person to move off the books in order to create the cap space that we needed to make the moves that did occur or didn't occur.
And Joe, you said it. He didn't really get a fair shake, whether it be injuries or being buried down on the third, sometimes fourth lines. I don't think John Cooper really trusted him all that much either. It does kind of suck. It's hard to use the excuse, you didn't put him with the right players, you didn't put him in the right position to succeed. But when you pay that much for a guy, you kind of do expect him to be able to maybe not drive his own line, but maybe elevate some of the players that he also does play with. I still really did like his game. I liked who he was as a person. I've got a soft spot for tough guys like that too. I don't think he ever lost a fight in Bolts Blue. At the worst, it was a draw. I really did love his game. It does suck that he had to go out like this. A lot of people, from the moment we got him, just already had a bad taste in their mouth, given what we gave up for him. But if you can look past that, I don't think the deal that he was on was all that bad. He was making around that $3 million range. At the very least, at least we got a second round pick back for him, and a fifth round pick 118 or something. It's better than letting him walk, after next year. And maybe he puts up good numbers this year in LA. Maybe, if we kept him, he put up good numbers this year in Tampa. Who knows? But it was probably unlikely that he would resign if we did keep him. So at the very least, we got something back for him. It'll never be, anywhere near what we paid for him, but it's tough. He never really did get a fair shake here. He just was not as advertised, but I still liked him a lot as a player. It sucks, but yeah, again, also it gave us a little bit of false hope as well with the whole re-signing Stamkos thing that obviously did not happen. So Tanner Jeannot, this whole experiment will probably not be looked on very fondly in the future, but
especially if he turns out to be a boss in LA.
We'll see. He might just be a one-hit wonder that we paid, a whole bunch for. I don't know what would be worse, if we paid a whole bunch for a one-hit wonder, or he just sucked in Tampa and he flourishes in LA.
I do like that he traded him to LA, and it seems like with JBB, you get this a lot. If there's a big trade, it's going to be to the West Coast. We don't want to see those guys again. Mm-hmm. And with someone like Jeannot, I'm glad that he's not somebody that we'll have to face 4 times a year. Where he's got that ability to just pound someone in the head, and I don't know how many fighters we've got left on the team.
And I'm glad too, because I like the LA Kings too, so I can still kind of cheer for him as well. So that's a little bit of a silver lining for me here.
And just going back to that point you made of Cooper didn't really trust him all that much. The thing about the bottom 6 in general is I feel like we have to do something other than play at 5-on-5. Whether that is be on the power play or the penalty kill. I know, Joe, you mentioned he was surrounded by a bunch of bums. Luke Glendening had 11 goals this year. Granted, most of them felt like they were shorthanded, but he did have 11 goals this year. He played the penalty kill, and he did it quite well. Tyler Mott played the penalty kill. Guys like that. With Jeannot, not only did he only have 1 power play goal this year, which – by the way, was his first power play goal since the Stadium Series against the Lightning. But he didn't play on the penalty kill. He was really restricted to his 5-on-5 minutes. And when you are stuck on a line with Luke Glendening and Tyler Mott, who, granted, as Joe said, were not great at 5-on-5, your options are really limited to generate offense. I think his best game overall was the one where he was paired up with, I think it was Asimont and Paul against the Bruins, where they just wreaked havoc, and they didn't necessarily create any goals, but they created a lot of scoring chances, and they made it very difficult for the Bruins. And for some reason, Cooper went away from that. So it's unfortunate that this didn't work out for the Lightning, but I am glad that a general manager is willing to admit that they've made a mistake and that they are willing to get off of that contract and that player before things end up too late, because a lot of GMs will end up holding on to dead weight of their assets.
Wonder if he's going to be able to keep that energy about admitting mistakes later. Anyway, so let's talk about the second Well, listen, I know, guys. I'm gonna listen. I'm sure a lot of us here are feeling very emotional. I'm warning you now. I am still going through the 5 stages of grief, and I haven't even entered stage 1. So let's talk about the second trade, though, that did get some audible gas at the trade deadline. One that I don't think anybody saw coming. Of course, that was the trade of Mikhail Sergachev to Utah. The team that doesn't even have an official name yet, but he's headed to Utah. In return, the Lightning got a pretty decent return. They got J.J. Moser, Connor Geeky, a second-round pick in 2025, and pick 199 as well. So a couple of players back, got 2 picks. Moser is a guy who is a restricted free agent right now. The Lightning did qualify him. They have not officially signed him yet, so still waiting on that deal. Connor Geeky is a former top, I believe it was 11 pick.
11th overall.
11th overall, former first rounder. And he's had some pretty good years in the minors. So he's a nice little forward prospect that could potentially help the Lightning in the future. How soon? I'm not 100% sure on that, but overall, a decent return. The big part of this trade was it was just shocking to see Sergachev go. It's a guy that JBB had mentioned being in that core group of defensemen that he liked. And then all of a sudden we saw him gone. And again, this was kind of expected to be, they're clearing cap to make a bunch of moves and get guys like Stamkos back, which didn't end up happening. Maybe it was more just to sign Jake Gensel in the future here, but which we'll get to in a little bit. But yeah, shocking is the word I would use for this one.
I was actually pretty thrilled to see this. I like Sergachev. He's had a couple of seasons where he's looked down. He's had a couple of seasons where he's looked up. But overall, I kind of thought that he was pretty much overpaid. And when you have as much money going out as we do with the likes of Hedman, McDonough, and of course Vasilevsky, having Sergey being paid as much as he was, he's got to be a top guy. And I felt like he wouldn't have even been thought about for a Norris conversation. So what we got out of it was getting back to the likelihood of having a right-handed D on the right side because, having Chernak and McDonough, that gives us the combination that they seem to like so much. And, they weren't going to run a different combination than that, it seems.
Especially with a Victor Hedman extension that I'm surprised hasn't been signed yet, but it seems like it's inevitable that it's going to happen. He'd still, at best, be the second guy. And say what you want about his defense, it is suspect at times. But we saw what he can do when he is the number one guy. When Victor Hedman was injured a couple of years ago, Sergachev took that power play 1 spot, the number 1 D-man spot, and he kind of ran with it. So this could be a bit of a blessing in disguise for Sergachev. Like, I think right now, looking at Utah's depth chart, he'll probably be their number 1 guy. This could be a really good thing for him. He might, it sucks to say this, but live up to this contract that we signed him to. Yes, he was overpaid, maybe by $1.5 million or something like that, but this could be a really good thing for him. As far as the return that we got, I'm pretty happy with it. It really does hinge on what Connor Geeky turns out to be. I have really high hopes for him. Of course, you should with an 11th overall pick, only 2 years ago. He just turned 20 in May. Like, he's a young guy. He lit up the WHL. I want to say he had, close to 100 points and, way less games. Like he's well over a point per game in the minors. When he slots in on the team, I'm not sure. We might even see him maybe this year if there's some injuries, depending on how free agency goes and all that. But I'm excited to see what he can do. J.J. Moser as well. I had him on my fantasy team last year. Ding. He's a good puck moving defenseman. He's nothing crazy. I'll say, he's probably got the same defensive acumen as Sergachev, maybe a little bit less risky. Definitely not a big body or anything like that, but he can move the puck and he can defend. Nothing crazy, but he can put up, 30, 35 points. I think especially on, a team like the Lightning that, thrives on offense and not offensively challenged like the Coyotes were. I think he can turn into something good too. And the second and what was it, a 5th round pick as well? Those to me are just kind of bonuses. The second is still really nice. The 5th is really a bonus. So it'll take a while to see how this trade really does pan out. But in the meantime, it freed up a ton of cap space. Again, thinking maybe we can get Stamkos back, but now we have a lot more room to play in free agency, maybe at the trade deadline as well. If we don't, handcuff ourselves and pin ourselves to the roof of the cap ceiling, we'll have some room to play. So I'm excited about this deal, but it'll take some time to really see how everything does go over.
43 goals, 99 points in 55 games for Connor Geekie. If that doesn't get you excited about a pretty barren forward prospect pool, I don't know what will. I don't know if he's necessarily going to make an impact this season, but definitely sometime probably in the next 2 seasons. And the Lightning definitely need that shot in the arm. When they got McDonough back, I thought it was very interesting of like, okay, who would actually play the right side of guys not named Eric Chernak, who's a natural righty. And with this trade, you are able to slot Moser comfortably into that third left-handed slot. And I'd like to see them upgrade the right-handed side from what it is right now, but you no longer have those questions. So overall, I think the Lightning actually did very well in this trade. What it means for what happens 24, 48 hours later, that's a different story. Trade in itself, I thought they did very well.
Yeah, Michael, I think you said that best, right? Like pure trade, I do like it's a good return. Sergeyev's a great player. We're going to miss him. But by the way, Daniel agrees with you, Matt and Michael, that says Geekie is the best prospect in Tampa system now. I like Groshev. I'm a little biased there, but yes, Geekie is probably the top, one of the top prospects, if not the top prospect in the Lightning system right now. He's a very, very good player. Michael, you mentioned, what was it, 99 points in 55 games?
99 points in 55.
Normally that would get me super excited, but I also know a guy that I got really excited about because he scored like 115 points in the QMJHL, and now he's signed with Montreal, and that's ABB. So I'm a little hesitant there to get super excited. I think Connor Geekie's a different player, though. Hopefully that will translate this time around for the Bolts. By the way, I want to welcome in all of our live viewers. We got a ton of you joining with us right now. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll get to Steven Stamkos. I know that's the big news. We're getting to it in just a moment here. We'll talk about all that. If you're returning back with us again, don't forget that like and subscribe button. If you're new, should be a fun show. Follow us at RBLR Sports and at RBLR Lightning, and you can get notified when we go live in the future. And don't forget to drop your comments down below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to think on all of these situations.
So, quick question. Now that Sergachev is gone, who is the power play 2 defenseman? Does it stay Radish? Is it Moser?
I was going to say, I don't think there's a reason not to trust Radish with it. He's traditionally kind of like a puck-handling defenseman, and he's someone that, we've seen some good upside with him. Something we didn't really talk too much or hit on too is like Nick Perbix had a sophomore slump. He might come back next season and really start putting up some points again and playing stronger defensively. So we still have a really outstanding D core.
Yeah, Matt, you bring up a good point. Like, it would be interesting to see what Cooper does. I think Radish is probably the next best guess unless something happens in training camp or potentially free agency. Also, Michael, I want to go back to the point that you made. The biggest problem I have with this trade right now is not that, listen, losing Sergachev obviously sucks. He was a great player. I really loved him here in Tampa Bay. He's a young guy. I think he'll continue to improve. And pure trade, I do think it is good. But again, I looked at these trades like, okay, we're clearing cap space. What are we going to go do with that cap space? Yes, they did sign one player, but they've done nothing since that. We have not made any. They made some minor moves today, signing some depth guys when it comes to free agency specifically. I don't count Gensel as a free agent because we traded for him a little bit early. They grabbed him there. But they still have $7.5 million in cap space. And to me, is like, if you're going to clear that cap space and then go out and make all these moves, improve the team, okay, that's great. They haven't done that yet. It can still happen. I don't know what JBB is currently waiting for or what players he's looking at, but that's my biggest gripe with this whole situation currently.
So should we get into the free agent talk?
One more thing about the trade, not to keep, no pun intended, geeking out about Connor Geekie, but one thing that has been mentioned as like one of his downsides is his skating, because he's not afraid of contact. He's big. He's strong. He's a center. Like, we love all those things. Apparently, his skating is not that great. Who's the Lightning's best coach? It's Barb Underhill, their skating coach. Like, this is a match made in heaven, I think. So, very excited for that prospect, and I really do hope that J.J. Moser can provide some stability to that defensive core.
And skating is, I have no merit to say this, but it's one of the most fixable issues. It's something you can tailor, especially when you have, such a good, skating coach in Barb. Not that everybody can translate it, and you can still make a career being, a kind of half decent skater. When you've got a 6'4" frame and you're near 200 pounds and you play the center position, there's a lot you can do, to make up for the shortcomings of your skating. And it's something that, he can tailor if he's, dedicated enough and works with, the right people, the best person to work with. She's done wonders with Braden Point. I know that was always one of his best, attributes, but just looking at how he's grown since he's been with, the big leagues, they've done a lot of work with him. Like, that's always, kind of the go-to person. Geeky might not turn into Braden Point. It's very unlikely he will, but again, it's a skill that you can kind of work on.
Yeah, that's go ahead, Joe.
Do you guys have any good sources for the free agency, like a live tracker to see who's left on the board? Because the last update I have on the NHL was from like 4 hours ago, and I know there's been other signings.
Has a good one. Would be my guess.
While they're still alive as a website, at least publicly, Cap Friendly has a free agency tab that you can see who is still available.
Perfect.
Which we're gonna lose.
They will be alive until July. So, Puckpedia as well. That's the new one. Puckpedia.
Puckpedia, yeah. Well, I think TSN has one as well. I don't know how good theirs is, but Cap Friendly, man, we're going to miss Cap Friendly. Daniel brings up, listen, he says offseason isn't over, Jay. Could add more players via trade or free agency. You are absolutely 100% right. But for me right now, in this state of mind that I'm in, I'm just, it's hard because I'm waiting. I'm wanting to see something like, okay, let's go. We lost a lot of our big names. What are we waiting for? And a lot of those top free agents, like we said at the beginning, top of the show, it's been a very busy free agency and guys are flying off the shelves. You can absolutely still get more great players in the future here. But for me, it's just like, it's just, all this happened. I'm so amped up and going through all these emotions. It's like, okay, come on, let's do something. But you are right. It's not over. There's still a lot of time left. But, I'm just wondering, what are we waiting for?
Can I bring up something real quick? This is actually breaking
No, you
news.
can't, Michael. You can't say that.
We're talking about the defense core. The Lightning have signed Emil Lilleberg to a 2-year contract extension.
Yeah.
$800K per season. So that's your little bit of breaking news.
There you go. Hey, hey, let's get a round of applause for that. That was probably the nicest thing we've done. Well, not the nicest thing.
2 more years of Lilleberg's
Hey, I
fiance.
do plenty of nice things, okay?
Hey, that's very nice. I like that. I like that a lot. So that's a good one. To get nice to sign a defenseman. So
he's probably got a full-time role next year. I'm not sure. With Sergachev leaving, he'll be the third lefty. Am I wrong?
No, because Moser is a lefty.
Oh,
so
interesting.
It's gonna be interesting. My NHL franchise always has Hedman and McDonough on a pair for some reason, even though they're both lefties. So maybe we try that in real life.
No, I'll take it. I say they hate doing that though. They really hate it. The only person they really allowed to do it much was Sergachev, and
he's gone.
And he's gone.
Maybe Moser's a bit of a roamer. He might be able to play both sides. We'll see. It's a good problem to have, I guess.
Well, we did talk about one other. Do you call him a free agent? Is he technically, because the Lightning traded for him just before? I guess he's still a free agent. Let's talk about Jake Gensel, who was a guy that was one of the top free agent names until Steven Stamkos became available. But as soon as these trades happened, there were reports that the Lightning could be very much in on him. And the next thing we know, the Lightning made a trade to acquire his rights. They didn't give up much. All they gave up was a third-round pick in 2025, if I remember correctly. So not much to give up. It's just the rights anyway. You're not going to pay a lot for something like that. It took a little bit, but the contract negotiations did go through, and the Lightning signed Jake Gensel to a 7-year deal worth $63 million, $9 million on the average annual salary. So he becomes one of the top paid players on the Bolts, a little bit behind, $500,000 behind guys like Nikita Kucherov, Andrei Vasilevsky, and a couple others too as well. So not the top paid Bolt, but a very highly paid Bolt. And I want to get your thoughts on this signing. I'll start off by saying, listen, I'm very excited by Jake Guentzel. He's going to be a great player. He scores a lot of points. He's I think his defensive game has gotten better. It's not great when you look at the advanced analytics, but we'll see how things play out here in Tampa. So excited to have him. He's going to be a great player. I do think we paid a little bit too much. Now, that does tend to happen when you're going to get guys in free agency. So you're going to pay more for those guys. It's a little high, but it's not terrible either. I saw a lot of people very upset that we got him for that number. I think the advanced analytic community had his value around 10.5. But guys, your thoughts on Guentzel?
I'll start. I'm extremely excited about this. You guys have heard me, talking in the group chat for the last, 4 days about it, once the rumors really started. I've been a Pittsburgh hater, since, the day I was born, and nobody likes Pittsburgh, especially, when they're winning all the cups. Jake Guentzel was one of the players on that team that I've always had a soft spot for. I thought he was a really good winger. He could produce on, he can play with guys like Sidney Crosby. He can also play, deeper in the lineup and still put up point per game numbers. He proved that again in Carolina. He doesn't have to play with elite players. All he has to play with is, pretty decent players, and he can still put up over a point per game numbers. I want to say he set the record for most points by a trade deadline acquisition of all time last year, and then he carried that success into the postseason. Another thing about him, he is a postseason player. He's over a point per game, or right around a point per game. And I want to say
like 2 points shy of point per game, and
close to like a goal every other game in the playoffs as well, too. Like he's a playoff player, and that's exactly what this team needs right now. He's kind of the epitome of consistency. And again, being able to play with high-level players, extremely smart players like Sid, I believe that will translate very well to playing with maybe the guy that has the highest hockey IQ in the league right now, Nikita Kucherov. I think this is a perfect deal. It might be just a touch too much money. If he would have signed for 8.5 or something, that'd be beautiful. Anything over 9 might be pushing it, but they wanted this guy. They had to get this guy. I think it's kind of the perfect number, and I think he'll be the perfect line mate for Brayden Point and Nikita Kucherov. He's a little bit of, maybe not a mix of both, but I think he'll complement both of their strengths really well. He doesn't do anything really fantastically like Brayden Point. He's a goal scorer. He's in tight. He's got good speed. And Nikita Kucherov, he's the best passer in the league, in the world, and he's just got such a high IQ. Jake Guentzel, he's a good net front presence. He's got a really good shot. He can get you the puck. He can do a little bit of everything. So I think he'll be a very, very complimentary winger that won't be kind of riding anyone's coattails either. He can generate a lot on his own. I'm fawning over him right now. If you guys couldn't tell, I'm really excited about this deal, but there's a reason why. I think you guys will love him. A lot of Tampa players are kind of unsold on him right now because of the ramifications that it caused with losing Stamkos. So he's off to a bit of a rocky start. I think a lot of people like Jake, like all of us today, we're thinking with our hearts, not our brains. So
hang on. Because you guys are going to hit me with this hard. I know. Listen, and Daniel kind of said something similar here. He said,
I like Daniel
over Stamkos, if you can take your emotions out of it. Listen, yes, he's a great player. Don't get me wrong. I love this signing. I do. He's a fantastic get, like you guys have been saying. And I don't think it's just because I'm thinking with my heart here. I want to point to my head. That's how out of it I am right now. But to me, this signing, it's great. It's going to be wrong, but it's a Band-Aid over a bigger wound right now. Because pure talent, is Guentzel better than Stamkos? Yeah, probably. I mean, he's a really good player. He's a couple years younger than Steven Stamkos, and we're going to get to Stamkos momentarily. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but there is so much more to Steven Stamkos than just his play. It's a huge, huge loss. Why could we not have Stamkos and I'm getting ahead of myself here a little bit, but I think we could have had both those players. Maybe we had really hard to pull off. Maybe, I don't know. I wasn't in those rooms with the negotiations, but I love Guentzel. Don't get me wrong. I love him. He's going to be great in Bolts Blue, especially playing with Nikita Kucherov. but I still think it just doesn't make me feel as good because there's still some major holes on this team. He doesn't fix the team with one signing.
I wonder if we will actually see Gensel playing with Kucherov. I think Point pretty much has that center position locked down,
He's
which
a
isn't a
winger.
bad
Well,
thing.
he's a winger. So that's
I thought he usually played center.
No, he's wing.
Well, you know, in
All right,
today's
well.
game, you never know what guys are going to play.
True.
Stamkos is technically a center
So-
too. He played wing all the time.
Well, yeah, I mean that does change things. So if he is playing on that side, but if he's going to be playing on the left side, he is left-handed. Does he play left wing typically then?
Now, that's a good question. I'm not sure.
All right.
I'll pull up
Well,
Cap Friendly real quick and see what they have listed.
Okay, so Hockey Reference is wrong because they list him as a center too.
I mean, he's listed, as a center on
Well, yeah,
others. I don't know as
Stamkos
much
is listed as a
about
center.
him as other players, but it opens up the possibility at least to strengthen our second line, which I really think is something that needs to be done because without, let's take the positives of Stamkos, which is his raw scoring ability, and we can go more into that later. If he can help fill that role, this is a guy that has two previous 40-goal seasons, so he can definitely do some scoring to fill that hole, but then also help out defensively where, maybe it makes it so that you don't have to have Cirelli as who's Crosby's. Well, I mean, he may have been playing as Crosby's left wing, but that's also because you're not going to put him as a center to replace Crosby too. And if they wanted to get them to play together,
There's a left wing and right wing, by the way. So, and Cap Friendly's
and
usually
NHL.com says center. Somewhere else I saw said a center. I haven't watched a lot of his game, but I do think that the prospect of solidifying our second line, if he could play center, dropping Cirelli down potentially, would be great in a lot of ways because we really need to get our second line to produce more points.
Well, even if we stick him on the second line and bring Brandon Hagel up, to play on the Einstein line, as I like to call it, that's also extremely beneficial as well. Like I was saying earlier, he can produce, away from the elite players. He might be able to boost, Cirelli stats, or maybe if Nick Paul is the 2C or something like that. I don't know who'd be on the right wing or on the open wing on that second line, but still he's versatile enough that he can kind of be anywhere in the top six and still produce. It's not a guarantee still, it's going to be a completely new team, new system, new teammates and all that, but I still have extremely high hopes. So this gives us a little bit of wiggle room. I still think that we're probably going to go out and get maybe not a top six winger or something, but I still think there are deals to be made. Wingers are kind of what the Bolts need right now as well. So this was a targeted acquisition that I'm really a big fan of. He's versatile enough that you can plug him pretty much anywhere. If he is listed as a center too, which we do have a bit of, we've got good center depth, so I don't think we'll ever have to have him play center. But if he can play on either wing or anything like that, we've got a really good problem on our hands as well.
So I have my thoughts on who the Lightning's other wing on the second line should be. I kind of agree with Joe about maybe you put him on the second line. Maybe you do put him on the top line with Brandon Hagel shifting down to play with Cirelli because they are demons together on a penalty kill.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see that at 5-on-5. I think that would be great. But let's get back to Genzel's scoring ability. Least amount of goals in a season. He was a rookie at 16 in 40 games. His next lowest, he had 20 in 39 games in 2018 or 2019, 2020. This dude has scored 30 goals 4 times, 40 goals twice. He's a really good player. Like there have been a lot of people that talk about his defensive inefficiencies at points, and we have plenty of guys like that on the Lightning.
Is it going to be any worse than Stamkos, though? I'm sorry to smear him, but, Stamkos' defensive game was not great.
Jake, we're not there yet. Please.
I don't think it'll be any worse than, Stamkos passing on his backhand and giving it completely away to somebody, or just falling down on 3-on-3 overtime like he did a billion jillion times. I don't think it'll be any worse than that. I'm sorry to be this guy, but am I wrong?
I think my answer would be...
You're wrong for smearing Stamkos. Yes. But yes, I don't think his defensive game is that bad. I haven't watched a ton of him play, so I don't know what the defense is going to be like. But no, you're not technically wrong.
My answer would be we gotta wait and see. Like we
Yeah,
unfortunately we're still in the middle of the Blashill system. I was hoping that he would have been hired by San Jose. Apparently that didn't happen. But year 2, baby, let's go.
well, we don't know if he's going to be sticking around yet or not. I don't know if he's still in on some of those coaching positions that he was rumored to be on. By the way, Matt, you read Beverly's mind here, by the way. Said Kuchin Point will make everyone better. Even with Hagel and Cirelli, he'll still do well, which is very, very true. We have a very talented top 6 group of players there, and he would be good on any of them. And she also said we got a lot of leadership in that room still. Yes, that is true to a certain extent. But again, I think Stamkos brings a lot. You guys are laughing. This is going to be listen. He's
let's go, baby. Let's go.
Get into it. Rip the Band-Aid off. Let's go.
But all right, let's talk about it. We got over 112 people in here, by the way. Thank you everybody who's tuning in. Should be a fun few minutes here. Don't forget, follow us at RBR Lightning at RBLR Sports. And you can comment as well on YouTube so you can join the conversation. So be sure to do that. Hit that like and subscribe button. All right, Steven Stamkos time. It's official. He's gone. He has signed with the Nashville Predators. It was a 4-year deal, $8 million on an average annual salary. Before we get to especially my thoughts on the whole situation and losing him, let's start with the positive because, listen, at the end of the day, what's done is done. Steven Stamkos is no longer a Bolt. He is going to the Nashville Predators. He was the captain of the team. He was the face of the franchise. He was a part of countless huge memories for the Lightning. First in Bolt's history in games played, first in goals, second in assists. The first Bolt to hit 1,000 career points, a 2-time Stanley Cup champion. The list goes on. Steven Stamkos was a legend here in Tampa. He will forever be missed. I have been just torn up about it all day long. I saw the Lightning posted a little video of Stamkos. I haven't even watched it because I don't think I could get 10 seconds into it. I tried to listen to his interview on TSN too. Couldn't get through that. This is a tough loss. This was a huge part of Lightning history. And unfortunately, he is gone, just like Joe. Hopefully we'll get him back here momentarily. But yeah, so Steven Stamkos gone, and it's tough. It's really tough. But man, what a player he was for the Lightning. I can't put into words how sad I am to see him go. I was really hoping he was going to be a Bolt for life. Somebody take it away before I even get more.
Matt, you want to go first?
Yeah, Joe or Jake, you mentioned it earlier. You're going through the 5 stages of grief, and you said you haven't entered it yet. I have. I'm still in the denial phase. Like, I'm so, ecstatic about. Welcome back, Matt.
Yeah,
there we go. There we go.
I'm not gonna lie, my camera overheated. Is feeling Jake's wrath too much, and decided to need a second.
I don't know if you heard, but I gave a very nice little speech about Steven Stamkos and all.
Yeah, I was still in. Yes,
there was no tears just yet, but I'm still going through the denial phase. Again, I'm just kind of so excited with the Gensel signing. Excited to see what this new cap space brings us. This is whether you like it or not, a new era of Lightning hockey. It might be for the better. It might be for the worse. A lot of people are upset right now, but I still haven't fully swallowed this pill. I think it'll probably hit me in the next couple of days. It might take me until, the first game played against Nashville in the Amalie Arena, or just maybe the first game of the season. It's really weird, but I don't think it's fully set in for me quite yet. So, there's so many good things we can say about our captain, even though I just did start smearing his defensive game, 2 minutes ago. But again,
sure, Matt, how dare you? Get out of here. I'm serious.
Can also say that, happy that he got paid. He got a contract that he really deserves. Happy that it's technically a West Coast team, even though he's relatively close to home. Not that he would ever fly Allegiant, but I'm pretty sure there's direct flights from Allegiant straight to Tampa. So
at least
it makes
to Knox Vegas.
Yeah, right. So, it makes it easy for the fans to go up and see some games for him as well, and he's not too far away from home technically.
He's less than an hour away from where I currently am, so maybe I'll take a trip to Nashville.
Hey, my sister's doing college in Nashville. I'm going to go see her a lot now. I'm kidding. And I love you. I'll be up there no matter what. But
I had an interesting time with this one because I sort of started the 5 stages last week. It sort of hit me that this probably wasn't going to happen, which is something that you never want to hear. But there was the brief glimmer of hope that was the trades, or were the trades that happened on Saturday. Like as the hours go by, you sort of just say, it's not happening. Like this, it happened one time already in 2016, right at the buzzer, and that was legitimately the last offer on the table that the Lightning were going to offer him, and he said, "I will stay." But that team hadn't done anything. Like they hadn't won yet. Now that Stamkos has his cups, I'm glad that he's able to do his thing. Whether that's legacy, whether that's cashing out, however he wants to spin it. I have gone through my stages of grief, and today my only hope was that the team that he would have signed with was a team that I actually liked. And I don't hate the Predators, so that's good.
Yeah, it could have been Boston, it could have been Toronto, New York, or New York, or it could have been a bunch of other teams. Like to me, this is really one of the best case scenarios.
Don't say that to Jake. Don't say that to Jake.
Nothing's wrong with the Preds, man. Like they're not going to hurt anybody.
Listen. If he's going to go anywhere, if it has to happen, and I absolutely hate that it happened. But yes, the Preds are definitely not a worst case situation for that. And the other thing I'll say too is, listen, Steven Stamkos. I think a reason that this is also hitting home hard for a lot of people, especially me. Listen, I've been a Lightning fan for 25 years. I grew up watching Steven Stamkos. Like, this is the guy. You know, he was a big part for so many people going to Tampa games and getting into it. And it's just, it's going to be so weird not to see him in a Lightning uniform. Unfortunately, we lost Joe there for a second again. Poor Joe's having some camera problems. But, I can't put into word. It's so hard to see a guy like him go because of all the things he did in Tampa, all of the him scoring that goal in the Stanley Cup Finals. That'll be forever a moment etched into Lightning history. And it's going to be so weird not to see him in Bolts Blue, how much he meant to this city, how much he meant to this team. And that's why this is so hard for me and so hard to accept. And now let's get into the other half of the side of things here. And the way that it was handled, that's also is what has made me extremely upset. It's not that just listen, because I know people have said, like, listen, you lose guys move on, things change. I totally get that. Like, one day Stamkos is going to retire, even if he stayed with the Lightning. So things do change. But the way this was handled, I think, was terrible. I think we totally disrespected Steven Stamkos, and that's what upsets me most. And this all started last year. Matt, I think I said it multiple times on this show. Like when Stamkos came to to training camp, he talked about how he thought they were going to start discussions about this contract situation a year early, like they have done with every single player on this team, including Victor Hedman right now, who is another top player, also a guy that's getting older. But they won't do it with Steven Stamkos. And listen, I get it. JBB wanted to see how things played out. He wanted to see what was going to happen with the cap. I get that. But you got to communicate with your face of the franchise. I don't understand how that was thrown by the wayside. And I think that's what started this whole situation. If you would have negotiated with Stamkos, I think a year ago, you never get to this point. Now, what have you signed for? I don't know. You know, we're not in the negotiation rooms. You don't know how that's all going to play out. Listen, I don't think, of course, I know a lot of people said $8 million. That's way too much for Stamkos. JB would never pay that. He wasn't going to sign for $8 million here in Tampa. I guarantee you, he was not asking for that high straight from JBB. He could have been. I could be wrong because again, I'm not in those. On those conversations, but the reports at least were that we offered him $3 million, which is an insultingly low offer. And the reports where he was asking, again, reports that he was asking for $4 to $5 million. How can you not make that happen? I don't understand that. Like, Give me Stamkos, Gensel, Kucherov, and Point. Like, that's amazing. I would have loved that. And again, this is the face of the franchise, a guy that has done so much for us, and we couldn't even offer him $4 to $5 million. Also, JBB said after the press talked with him after the trades that he made, he didn't even make him a second offer. Like, you couldn't have worked with him there. All right, I'm getting on my soapbox right now, so I'll step off so you guys can go. But like, this is what makes me so upset about this and how we handled this. And to me, and Nate Thompson said this on Twitter, I don't know if you guys saw that, it's a bad look for the franchise. It's kind of a spit in the face to Steven Stamkos. I think it's a terrible look, and I think we did him wrong. And that's what makes me so upset about this whole thing. All right, I'll let you guys go.
You missed it, man. You missed 11 out of 10.
What happened?
It was a great rant. Jake,
honestly,
do it
no. I was in the do it again for me. No, I got to hear everything I was saying, and there's
with my words. That's how much I was going on it.
There's a lot of validity in that. But part of it makes me think that JBB just never saw him as somebody that was going to continue with the Bolts, and that being what it is, he didn't want to try rushing to start negotiations that were never going to end well. Why do you push somebody that's the leader of the team to be unhappy and then demand a trade because you know that there's going to be animosity towards the leadership there? That's something that you have to take in consideration when you are running a business. And that's the cold hard fact at the end of the day, is that this is a business that they're running and sacrifices have to be made. Sometimes it's your captain. The other side of the coin, too, is that how much is Stamkos actually worth to this franchise besides being the face of the franchise, besides him being a leader in the locker room? What he brings to the table is really not as much as it used to be. When we're talking about even the last contract that he had, he's putting up points, but he's not a game breaker. He's not getting those goals by himself. He needs people that set him up so he can hit that one-timer that he's so good at. Everything that he's doing is from almost a stationary position. Even if you look back at the cups that we won, I actually have the stats here. We won one without him playing in the playoffs at all. I mean, what part are you rolling your eyes about? It's a fact. He didn't play in the playoffs at all, and we won a cup regardless.
Joe, that's the most iconic goal in franchise history. I'm not going to say
it's amazing. It's an amazing clip. Is it worth $8 million a year to see a goal like that? You know,
he wouldn't have signed for it. Why is everybody thinking, if he would have stayed with Tampa, he would have signed for $8 million?
Let's continue to the second Stanley Cup run, where he had a total of 18 points, of which 12 were on the power play. 2/3 of his points were on the power play. His 5-on-5 game has been steadily been declining for years. His speed isn't what it used to be, and defensively, he has actually become what I think is a liability. So maybe all that considered, JBB didn't feel that he was even worth $4 million a year.
And maybe JBB took, he was a protege of Steve Yzerman. Maybe he took so much of Steve Yzerman with him that we all know that he's kind of the expert negotiator. Maybe that's kind of proven to be false with his tenure in Detroit, but maybe Julian was just standing on business, maybe a little too hard, but he was maybe trying to replicate being Stevie Y with Stamkos, because he put his foot down with Stamkos, if I'm not mistaken. He said, this is like in 2016, he said, this is what you're getting and not a penny more. You're going to take that 8.5 or whatever we signed him to. And he did it with Kucherov. He did it with Point and Vasilevsky and all of that. This is Stevie Y. Maybe Julian, being a guy that learned under Stevie for so long, took it to a little bit of an extreme. I think $3 million is a bit of an insulting offer. I would take him back for that 4 to 5 that he was rumored to be asking for. It might have been for a longer term. He might end up getting the same amount of money just in a shorter span. That $8 million price tag is pretty steep. Maybe the 4 to 5 years that that he was asking for from Tampa came with, a 6 or 7 year deal or something like that. That would take him, way into his 40s or something. There's a lot of questions that will remain unanswered. There's going to be a lot that we don't know about this whole situation. Yeah, it could have been handled a little bit better, maybe on both sides. I'm not sure. I'm not going to sit here and act
Yeah.
clairvoyant on
Speaking of
what.
both sides, who leaked the fact that it was $3 million a year was what the offer was? That came out of the Stamkos camp. It wasn't something that was brought up by JBB. That was something that they did specifically to try putting pressure on him. And who knows what they countered with, if they countered with anything at all. Maybe they came back and said that, no, we need 6. And JBB says, we're not going to come to middle ground here. And he didn't make an additional offer.
I have another theory. And this actually goes above JBB for all the people that are blaming Julian Breezeball. The Lightning have been spending a lot over the past few years. I think Jeff Vinnick has told them to cut back just a little bit. But right now we got $7.5 million in cap space.
I don't subscribe to that.
And you've seen the team sort of fall back a little bit recently. I wonder if the paychecks are going down, especially with people needing extensions next year, like Victor Hedman. He's going to be a lot of money, guys. It's going to be a lot of money. And wrong place, wrong time. The captain was the one that had to suffer for it because of team circumstance, because of ownership circumstance. It's a difficult conversation to have, but there is a possibility that Julian Breeze bought the $3 million reportedly. I want to put that in quotation, but reportedly, $3 million was all he could get, because that's all Jeff Vinnick was willing to get.
I'm not sure if I really subscribe to that theory, just because, only a handful of years ago, this team was willing to spend literally $18 million over that $82 million were allotted, that year, or whatever the amount was.
They won a championship that year.
Exactly. So you spend money to win another championship. I think Jeff Vinnick.
They've gone out in the first round in the last 2 years.
So spend some money and, amplify your team, find out where the shortcomings are.
Maybe that's where Jake Gensel came
exactly.
from.
I don't think they're afraid of spending money. I don't think Jeff Vinnick is saying, cut back. This team has proven to be extremely profitable, extremely successful for him. I don't know if I really agree with that. This franchise, the value grows every day. It might lead to more championships. I don't think Vinnick, who we all hold in such high esteem because he is a good owner, he's not afraid to spend money. I think he's a little bit like whoever the Vegas Golden Knights owner is, who said we'd spend $150 million if we could. Bill Foley. He's maybe not that extreme with it, but I think, he'll do whatever it takes for his, pride and joy, his sports team, to lift another cup. If money was no option, I don't think Vinnick would really have an issue with who we could get. I think we just really did handcuff ourselves, and JBB was playing hardball with Steven Stamkos. I'm not going to be the guy that's going to sit here and victimize Julian Breezeball like every other Twitter person right now. But I do, he was the cause of it. I don't think Vinnick or anybody who might be above Julian Breezeball said don't give him a penny more than $3 million or something like that. I don't think that's the case.
You got to remember, we've seen, and we didn't really pay attention to it. We saw a lot of Vinnick headlines over the last couple of years. He sold part of the team. He was going through I believe he was going through a divorce. He sold another one of the things that he was that he owned. We could be reaching a point. I'm never going to say he's going to sell the team, but we could be reaching a point where he says, okay, maybe the team's not really ready this year to make another run at it. We could,
Vinnick, you're saying that Vinnick would be going under, you think he'd be going under the cap because he doesn't want to pay the extra money?
Under 88? Yeah, why not?
I don't think that's a good theory as to why Stamkos wasn't signed, though. I mean, this franchise is making a lot of money and doing pretty well.
Let's say Julian Breezeball was given the opportunity. Julian, you have $84.5 million to spend instead of 88. There are internal caps, guys. I'm not saying that this would be a long term thing. And Eureka, I know you just said they gave a guy more money. They used Stamkos' old contract and basically just replaced it with Gensel, and they give him a tiny bit more money.
A guy that's younger and going to be producing more in the end. So here's another big question. Like, what metric are we going to use for this next season to determine whether or not this was a net positive or a net negative for the team? It's really hard to use. Well, I mean, it's really hard to use wins alone, especially because if you compare it to last season, we had a lot of stuff going on that, made the team have struggles early on. Everything from a new system to injured players, those are all contributing factors. So if we're going to look at it compared to last season or seasons prior, historically, where do we call it a successful season? How many wins at what point?
That's a hard answer. It's really going to be hard to compare the two. I don't really think it's fair to really do that. I know we have to get to some comments here, so I'll keep this short, Jake, but it's kind of unfair to really, compare the situations. Maybe you can compare playoff success or points or something like that. But it's kind of a fool's task to really even try to compare. It's a really unique situation that we haven't been in the better part of a decade. So I don't think there really should be or could be a metric that we could, decide if this was the right decision. Maybe time will tell. But I don't think this really has soured Steven on the franchise. Maybe I still think he'll be welcome back. I still think he'll be, he's still in good relation with everybody, on the team. Maybe he doesn't like Julian, but that's only one guy. He'll still have number 91 retired. He'll still be, the all-time face of the franchise over Marty, over LeCavalier, over anybody. It'll probably last that way for another 30, 40, 50 years, maybe. Who knows? But I don't know. The whole comparison to find out if this is a win or a loss for us, I don't think it's a really fair thing to do. Jake, I'll give it to you because I know we have to keep moving.
Joe, it's a really hard thing to figure out exactly. Listen, I think at the end of the day, the best you can do is say, yeah, listen, if we go further than we've had before, or we're right back into the playoff race, where we've been in years past, then yeah, I think this was and listen, I hope I'm wrong. I hope the Lightning go and win the cup next year, and that this was a positive result. Hurts now, but that's what I hope. I do want to get to some comments quickly here. Appreciate everybody tuning in and joining the conversation here with us. I do find this funny. Listen, Joe, everybody's on your side. Listen, even Daniel was like, go get him, Joe. Come on, Daniel, help me out here a little bit. Listen, I'm upset. I'm sorry. But also here's another one from
wow.
HTBL. Joe, you're spot on. They're right there with you. And so it's going to be interesting. Let's see some other comments that we have here as well. Another one from Beverly. Writing has been on the wall for a long time with Stammer. Where is he without Cooch? He probably won't be near 40 points again. I have a hard time believing that. I still think Stamkos is a very talented player with a great shot. Will his points go down after not playing with a guy like Kucherov? Probably a little bit. But I don't know how much. We'll have to wait and see how things play out with Nashville here. But
I feel like I need to clarify something just for a quick second. Is that I'm not a Stamkos hater. I just think we should be realistic with his worth. I've loved him being the captain of the team, such a great face for the franchise, and the fact that his leadership has helped brought the team 2 cups, whether it be 4 Stanley Cup appearances, and really just a whole hell of a lot of memories. It's sad to see him go, but the time was now. The writing was on the wall, as Beverly said, and but I don't want anyone to think that I hate the guy.
In 16 years, like that is an eternity for any athlete, and to do that with one team and still have gas left in the tank to, maybe finish out his career, and it's still maybe a possibility he comes back as, a Corey Perry type of guy, playing into your high 30s or something, and he's not going to be anything like Corey Perry, but maybe something like that. He might, hopefully, wishful thinking, finish his career in Tampa. I got to think that the hardest part about Stamkos' transition to Nashville is going to be, he's probably got so much, team issued gear. He's probably got a lot to match with blue, and he's got to go to ugly yellow now. So maybe if he gets a little homesick from where he did grow up, he might be able to maybe buy a couple of shirts from The RBLR store, Jake, can you tell them where we can get that?
Hey, head over to shop.rblrsports.com. You can use code BOLTS to get 10% off your order. We got some awesome team-inspired merch. Lightning, Rays, Bucks, Rowdies, you name it. It's highly recommend you go check that out. And again, you can use code BOLTS to get 10% off your order. Matt's rocked the hats we have a couple of times as well. So definitely go check that out. If you want to help support us, we really do appreciate it. Go check out the store. Links, as always, are in the description.
That's the most spiteful ad read I've ever seen in my life.
Well, listen, I'm very emotional, and Matt, you caught me off a little bit off guard. I was looking through some comments because I do want to keep hitting on some of these points, but I know I'm in the less popular camp in this whole situation, but you know,
Can I make a statement, Jake?
Sure, go for it.
And this is not directed at you. Emotions are very powerful in sports. However, going from the Stamkos news to every other piece of Lightning news we have gotten today has been a bit of a nightmare online. And I'm asking everybody to please just take a deep breath. We're going to lose players. Some of these players probably wouldn't have played for the Lightning next year. I get people are upset with Stamkos, but the Stamkos news doesn't correlate with other players leaving as well. So that is my little diatribe right there.
Well said.
Got a comment here from Nick as well. Stammer is a shooter. Have you ever tried to watch him deke with the little emoji? Sniper all the way. Great leader, great player, but he is no Cooch or point with the puck. Never has been. I do agree with that. Listen, I mean, Stamkos, I think he's always kind of been a shooter, and there's no question that he's no Kucherov or
one of the best shooters of all time.
Unbelievable shooter. The big thing for me, I know we kind of moved past this a little bit, but I want to get back to it. The thing that I don't understand is I don't know why people discount the power play so much. And this happens for a lot of players in the NHL. Because listen, Stamkos, he put up 81 points. Like, I still think he's a very elite player that can contribute to this team. And did he score a lot of on the power play? Was his 5-on-5 and his defense especially very bad? Yeah, absolutely. I'm not discounting that. But why are we discounting the power play? The power play is still a part of hockey. The Lightning had one of the best power plays in NHL history this year. Fortunately, fell a little apart in the playoffs when we needed it most. But listen, the power play is still a part of the game. Goals are goals. I don't know why the power play is being discounted so much. Like, oh, he scored all these goals in the power plays. Who cares? If you score all your goals in the power play, I don't mind as long as you're scoring. I don't think that part of the game should be discounted.
Well, just like, people were, making fun of the team as a whole this year, calling us only power play merchants. If you can't do it 5-on-5, or it's just a lot worse 5-on-5, and you can only score in one aspect of the game, that's an issue. That makes you one-dimensional. And again, I hate saying that Steven Stamkos is one-dimensional, but he is a bit of a
his game 5-on-5. Like, it was really bad early in the season. He definitely got better as it went through on. But like,
and then in the playoffs, it was awesome too. But that aspect of his game has been very inconsistent over the last couple of years. Not even these, not even the twilight years of his career, but the last couple of years, it's kind of, we've seen a pretty steep drop off in that 5-on-5 game.
Well,
so
it's interesting. Well, 5-on-5, I can't speak. I don't have the stats in front of me, but like defense, especially too, like, I know a lot of people say he keeps getting worse defensively. He was a -5 last year. He was a +24 the year before that. And again, we had a whole new defensive system. The whole team was terrible defensively. Is he going to get better? He may be just as bad on Nashville. I don't know. Time is going to tell here. But I think people are still discounting a lot of what Steven Stamkos did. And listen, JBB's job is, I know I saw some comments in there saying that JBB's job is to get the team better. Absolutely. As of right now, and again, there's still time in free agency and what could happen here. I don't think this team is better. I don't see how it is. Yeah, they got Gensel, which is huge. It's a big replacement for a guy like Steven Stamkos, but they're missing a lot of pieces still. And without Steven Stamkos, unless they make some other moves, I don't think we're better. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm proved wrong, but
I don't think Stamkos filled those spots that we've been lacking. We've been lacking scoring on the bottom two lines, and unless you're going to put Stamkos on the bottom line, that wasn't going to help us at any rate.
No, the bottom six was definitely the worst part, but now the top six has taken a hit without Steven Stamkos.
Yeah, a little bit, but we kind of filled that with another player and someone that by the numbers should be just about as productive as Stamkos, and hopefully the plus minus goal differential, however you want to describe it, helps improve as well because it's a big part of the game is preventing goals as much as it is scoring them.
And I never really saw much of the criticism against Jake Gensel's defensive play, but from what I checked earlier, I don't think he's ever finished a season being a minus player. And I know that's not
It's very
everything.
minor.
I know.
The only reason I said it too is because like some of the advanced analytics stats, which take that for what it's worth, they have his defensive game low. But again, like I said, I haven't watched a ton of his game, but I don't think it's like a major issue or something. I think that's quote unquote maybe his weakest part of the game, some people might say, but it's definitely not like a huge red flag or something.
Yeah, go look at Connor McDavid's advanced analytics on the defensive side. It's not pretty. That's what happens when you're a high offense driven player like that. It's going to happen whether you like it or not, unless you are a kind of perfect player like Sidney Crosby or Alexander Barkov, who really refines your two-way game. That's just not who he is, so we can kind of shelf that. He's never finished his career as a minus player for Jake Gensel. So,
Jake, you wanted to know? Oh, there we go.
Comment here. The thing that we're not talking nearly enough about is the Sergei trade. If the goal was to get younger, our decor certainly hasn't. I don't know if you're just tuning in. By the way, appreciate we got over 140 people in here right now. So thank you guys so much for tuning in and joining the conversation. Even if you disagree with me a lot, I get it. It's okay. But we did hit on the Sergachev trade a little bit earlier. But yeah, they definitely got a little older when it comes to that. The one thing I would say, and we did mention it too, is that they extended guys like Lilleberg just now, which is huge. I think they're going to be relying on guys from the crunch coming up. You got Lilleberg, you got Crozier,
Don't sleep on Geeky.
Well, he's a forward though.
I'm just saying for youth in general on the team. Yeah, we've got some veteran guys. We got some veteran guys, but we're adding a lot of speed. That'll help our veteran guys because it's really not just about the D-men being fast and young. It's about them having really solid position and then having somebody blaze around to put pressure on the backside.
JJ's also very
younger
young
than
as well.
Sergachev. He's younger than Sergachev.
Yeah, he's like 24 or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
So JJ's a young guy, and he could be a talented player. I think JBB mentioned him as top 4. I don't know if
I see him as a top 4.
I think there's so I don't know. I think we got to see
first.
If
he's
he
lefty.
definitely could be. He got potential top 4, but I don't know if he's top 4 now. But I haven't seen him really play that all, so we'll have to wait and see how things work out.
Matt, do you want to go first?
Well, one thing that I did just kind of realize too is that we haven't talked about our favorite player in a while, Connor Sherry. Jake Gensel and Connor Sherry used to be line mates, so maybe there might be some kind of chemistry there. It might help Connor Sherry. He's still on the books for another year or 2 years or something like that.
Watch Sherry have a 30-goal season, and we all have to put our foot in our mouths.
I'd quit the podcast.
Jake would say he's just late. He was just late. He was not wrong. He was just late.
He was just late.
Or just early. Just early.
Yeah, Connor Sherry's another guy who just unfortunately has not worked out the way we had hoped right now. Maybe
if Connor Sherry plays on the line with Jake Gensel, I think we got a lot more.
Yes.
Put that out there.
Well, hey, listen, Sherry played on a Kucherov's line for like a game or two, and he scored a couple of goals. Granted, anybody who plays on Kucherov's line is going to score some goals.
Who we
keep
know
your stick on the ice, and you'll score with Kuch on the ice.
Connor Sherry even said that. Like, listen, when you're playing with a guy like Kucherov, all you got to do is keep your stick on the ice. Or it might have been somebody else, but that's absolutely true. And listen, I hope Sherry does come back and have a huge year. That would be fantastic, but definitely hasn't worked out the way we had hoped.
Just getting back to that, why is it such a bad thing that he scored on the power play so much? Most of the game is played at 5-on-5, Jake. So when you need to play 2 ways at 5-on-5, it's great that you're scoring goals on the power play, but if you're not generating offense 5-on-5, which Stamkos really wasn't, especially in that first half of the year. Thankfully, my article on him really turned his game around. But
thanks, Mike.
You
priced him out of Tampa.
I know. I'm sorry. But just overall, you have to play better for the 52, 54 minutes that you're going to have, or maybe less than that. You good, man?
I think so.
Michael, you're right that the majority of the game is played at 5-on-5. But like, if you look at a playoff team and they're struggling on the power play, how many times do people bring up like, oh, their power play is not good? That's a huge issue. Their special teams are struggling when you need it the most here. Like, it's still a huge part of the game. Yeah, it's not.
I mean, there's a cup that there's a team that won the Stanley Cup that had some struggles on the power play.
I'm not saying the power play is going to make or break your playoff.
And even look at the conference finals 2010, 2011, game 7, there wasn't a single penalty called for either team, despite the Lightning being the cleanest team in terms of penalties taken versus the dirtiest team, Boston Bruins, for penalties taken, and we didn't even get the opportunity to get on the power play with a very lethal power play at the time. I mean, it's one aspect of the game. Your special teams always has to do more good than bad, balancing between the two. But that's the same thing like saying, 5-on-5, you got to do more good than bad, when you're on the ice in general.
You guys are right. I mean, the power play is not the whole game. There are definitely a lot of good examples of when you don't need the power play necessarily because all your other games are working on all cylinders. Like the Edmonton Oilers didn't win the Cup, but their penalty kill was huge for them this year, and that was a big reason they got to the Stanley Cup Finals. But again, I think it's being just kind of thrown away by the wayside. Like, it doesn't matter to me for a lot of people. Maybe that's not how they feel. I don't want to speak for anybody, but it's still a big part of the game. And let's not discount the 5-on-5 goals that Steven Stamkos did score. Like, it wasn't the only part of his game. Was it the best part of his game? Absolutely. The guy was electric on the power play, especially when you got guys like Nikita Kucherov. By the way, another comment on the power play. Our power play, although lethal, became predictable over time. Yeah, that's a really good point. I think it did happen a little bit. They started to make some adjustments, I think, late in the season where things got better. I mean, heck, they still had an unbelievable power play this year, and they've had that top line for a while now. But listen, I hope I'm wrong. I hope the Lightning are just as good, if not better, this upcoming season, and that the Steven Stamkos situation at the end of the day didn't really mean much. But to me, and this is just my opinion, but I don't like the way it was handled. I think the team is not better off currently. I think it's a big loss. I think people are overestimating how much of a loss, or underestimating how much of a loss this actually is. Again, I hope I'm wrong, but that's it's a huge loss to me. Huge loss.
This
so
kind of
you want to. I was gonna say, you want to throw a question out there. I mean, I think it's probably gonna be unanimous who the next captain will end up being.
Well, don't ask Mike. Yeah. He's gonna say Hagel.
Hey,
I mean, I hear the position's open.
No.
Hagel, I think, would be a great person to have, but he's very young too.
It's Hedman.
He's been a big dealer. Yeah, I think, Joe, is that who you were saying that the unanimous one would be? Yeah, Hedman's probably the next closest guy to being the next captain.
Yeah.
It is going to be Hedman, but a name that I didn't even really consider either. I know it won't happen, but it's kind of an interesting name. I saw was McDonough too. Not that I'd hate it. It wouldn't be the correct choice, but I just thought that I saw somebody say it earlier. It's not
thing to throw out there, but that would be weird after Hedman is spent. I mean, the Lightning have a tendency to give up on their captains, so maybe that'll happen again here. I'm bitter.
I'm going to start calling you Jade instead of Jake.
You call me what?
Jade instead of Jake.
Jade. I mean, listen, it's the last 3 captains: Marty, Vinny, and now Stamkos. They've all had unceremonious Richards, yeah, too. All of them have just had unceremonious.
Was Richards a captain?
I don't. We've had so many captains. It's gone through so many times. I can't remember.
Sure, he was a captain for the season after Anderchuk left. No.
No.
If not, either way, he was someone that had a huge contract. Was part of a core team that ended up getting the boot. So he kind of fits the mold for what we've had to go through with some guys.
And about this Oh, go. Sorry.
Oh no, it's just another Richard story. It's all good. What's up?
Okay. Sorry, I thought you were wrapping up. The comment that he just brought up, Hagel says obviously too much. So during interviews, that's just hockey guy jargon, man. Come on,
Listen, everybody says that too much in their interviews. Trust me, I did it a lot too, and I went to school for broadcasting. I still do it a lot. It's a filler word, but Paul's an interesting pick there. I think he maybe he's a good leader in the locker room, but he hasn't been with the Lightning nearly long enough to be like. I think you need a guy that's been here a long time, knows the culture, knows the team, knows the players. That's why I think Edmund is the AP. He has been here a while.
Mill Lilleberg. For
yeah.
But I think Hedman is the obvious choice for. I can't believe we're even talking about this. It's still
so. Not to make it even worse, Julian Brisebois is currently doing a press conference right now.
He is. Well, we should be monitoring that so we can talk about it live.
So he did say, I know the fans are disappointed. I know Steven's disappointed, and I'm disappointed. And whoever tweeted that out is getting ratioed to all ends right now. So
I do feel very bad for the Lightning Twitter admin who has to deal with a lot of angry and upset fans right now. It's not the admin's fault that anything that has happened. But
speaking of Lightning Twitter, I want to give a shout out. Chris Kren, congratulations, the new manager of communications. No longer the beat writer. I did see they have a beat writer position open now, but a huge congrats to Chris, who is taking over Brian Burns.
Yeah, absolutely. I love Chris. He's been fantastic as a beat writer. Tough bummer to see him go from that position, but I think he'll do even better as the communications major. So very, very exciting for that. Congrats to him. Here's a comment, by the way, from JBB from the press conference that's happening right now. This is from Chris Johnston. Julian Brisebois says that he felt if he met Steven Stamkos' financial expectations on a new contract, then the Lightning would not be putting ourselves in the best position to chase championships moving forward. So interesting comment there. That obviously implying that, okay, I don't know what the thing was for there. Obviously that implying that Stamkos was asking for a lot of money. We don't know how much specifically, but again, here's my problem with that, right? If he is asking for that much and you don't think that'd be putting yourself in the best position to go out and win, like you just paid $9 million to a guy that's the supposed Stamkos replacement, and we still have yet to do anything with the 7.5. Like, all you've done right now is replace Stamkos, who's a guy a little bit younger, maybe a little bit better skill-wise, but have paid him more than Steven Stamkos, I would think, would have made. More than
you have to define what you mean by just a direct replacement, though. If he's just a direct replacement, you're saying that he's not going to be as good in or he's going to be as bad in all those other aspects of the game too.
No. Like I'm saying, he's taking Stamkos' spot, like in the overall top six.
Younger, faster, better overall. He's worth more money because of that. And having Stamkos handicap the team with his salary for say 8 years may have just been completely unrealistic.
I think we're off a little bit on what we're thinking here, but yeah, no. I mean, listen, Gensel's a great get, and then $9 million is a great, like you said, younger, faster, a little bit better skill wise, but he's taking quote unquote Stamkos' spot in the top 6. Like maybe you get a little bit better, but we haven't done with any of the money. We haven't done anything with the money that we currently still have. And yes, I know there's still time, but like
Jeff Skinner's still
how
available.
much better is this team right now than it was a couple of days ago?
I mean, it's something that you have to see as the season plays out, right? But I mean, I think if it's a direct swap replacement, I think the team's actually better. The team is actually better. Stamkos was a leader and a figurehead more than an impact player on the ice. And if you put someone that's already, I guess I don't understand.
You're hitting specifically the swap, like one for one. But there's other pieces to all of that's going on right now. Like the Lightning still need a couple more forwards to fill out the rest of the team. And
they might have one in Geeky. They might be able to use the additional room if they have to find somebody else. Like Matt just said, Skinner's still available, although I think he probably would command too much. I mean, there's still the ability to make trades too coming into the season. It doesn't mean necessarily that he's done just because we haven't seen anything. He can be quite frugal when it comes to players, and why jump at something if it's not going to potentially help the team? I get what you mean. We have holes still, but this was probably the biggest thing that he had to deal with coming up. He knew it, he addressed it, and everything else they can still look at moving forward.
I think go ahead, Matt. Go ahead, Matt.
No, keep going.
Well, I was just going to say, I think the other part of the problem for me is like I'm still in the mindset of you could have had both of these guys. Again, I don't know how much it seems like it's funny. We get all these comments from both sides, and we just don't know what the actual numbers that were being thrown around. By the way, Eric Erlinson said, when I asked Steven Stamkos about when he came to the realization that he wasn't going to work out on the return, here's the quote: "You're trying to hang on to something that doesn't want to hang on to you." That is another interesting comment as well. Like, this is a very ugly breakup at the end of the day, no matter how you feel about it. And, that's tough.
Can it just overall, so is the Marty breakup. That was very ugly. People forget about that.
No, I mean, yeah, it was an ugly breakup, but I think this is way bigger than Marty's breakup ever was.
Marty was way worse, way like 10 times worse. You're the captain of the team and you demand a trade. What's that?
I'm talking about the player that you're losing. Like, this is much bigger of a loss than Marty was.
Nah.
Yes.
He won the Art Ross Trophy the year before. Marty did, and then he got left off Team Canada and requested a trade. Yes.
To me, I think we're going to have an entire offseason to speculate and talk about maybe the ramifications of, this deal, this breakup, and comparing all that. We're running pretty late here. So should we end the show with something a little bit more lighthearted? We're closing in on like an hour and a half. I think this is a record for us. I'm happy to do it, but I have to run soon. So what is y'all's favorite Stamkos moment? I know it's a kind of a hard question. I know we're all kind of thinking the same one, I'm sure. But like, his impact will be felt for years and years and years. What was your favorite Steven Stamkos moment on or off the ice? I don't know who wants to start.
I can start. It won't be the one from the playoffs, but it'll be one at the very last game of the season, and I can't remember which year it was. Maybe it was 2000 and maybe it was like 2010, where they're playing the last game of the season at home. There's a face-off in the defensive zone. We had just learned that Sidney Crosby had scored a goal in his game to take the Rocket Richard lead. So Stamkos needed to be able to tie him. It was like a minute left in the game. The opposing team had their goalie pulled because the Bolts were up. I remember the face-off was on the left side of the ice, left side of our goaltender in the defensive zone. Vinny told specifically to Stamkos, just go. Stamkos lined up in the slot, to the right of where it was, and Vinny just basically took a slap shot at the puck. It hit about center ice with all the speed that a younger Steven Stamkos had. He got to that loose puck first, buried it in the empty net, and got the tie for the most goals in the season with Sidney Crosby that year.
Nice. I have a bit of breaking news here. Jeff Skinner, I just brought up, he signed a deal with the Oilers. 1-year deal, $3 million. So I'm bummed.
$3 million. Oof.
I'm bummed.
Oof.
He's getting that buyout from Buffalo. So.
Mm-hmm.
I know he's getting that $9 million buyout, but $3 million, you'd think that if we had the chance, yeah.
I'm bummed.
He's doing a press conference right now, so he's too busy arguing with Stamkos over comments. So
I'd like to make a correction. I know I had that theory earlier about Jeff Binnick. Julian Brisbois did say in his press conference, Jeff Binnick had no active role in negotiations. So if you saw that part of the show, I apologize. That was my little tinfoil hat theory, but ultimately it was wrong. I'm wrong a lot, so it's fine.
Michael, you got a favorite Stamkos memory?
Yeah, and it's not the one in the bubble. It's actually the 4-goal game from Edmonton this year. I really thought that the Lightning were going to get demolished that game, and they had 2 guys just completely carry them on their backs. It was Vasilevsky, who had 45 saves, and then Stamkos, who was sitting at the hat trick with the net empty, and I was like, there's no way, right? Like, this is a record that's only happened twice in Lightning history. And then he hits the empty net and, he ties the record, which is, he's going to hold that forever now.
My favorite moment, there's so many to choose from. I didn't want to use the cheap, one shot, one goal, 2 minutes, 47 second shift in the bubble year. It probably is the best. So I'll go with number 2 with the first time he hit 100 points a couple of years ago against Columbus. I think it was a goal that he got it on. And it was just a great call by Dave Randorf as well. And I just remember that being electric once he finally got it. It's a great clip. You guys should go watch it again.
I will be watching Steven Stamkos highlights for a while because I am very sad and still so bummed out that we're going to miss him. My favorite moment, it's so hard to pick. There were really so many. He was such a special player. I'm going to go with the easy one, and I will take the bubble moment. I think I'll remember it. I'll never forget it. A huge game the Lightning needed, and he comes in and scores after being in that bubble in such a tough situation, trying to be a leader in that locker room when he couldn't be on the ice, and then he comes in, scores that goal, and then gets hurt again. So I'll take that one as my favorite Steven Stamkos memory. So, all right. Guys, I think that's going to do it for us in this episode. Thank you so much to everybody who has tuned in this episode. If you want to watch, if you missed any of it and you want to watch it, don't forget this will go live on YouTube as well right after we end here. Don't forget to follow us on social media at RBR Lightning, at RBLR Sports. We'll be continuing to cover the Lightning no matter how we feel about the whole situation thing played out. The day will go on. It's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow, even though it may be very, very of a bummer right now. But don't forget to follow us, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that share button. It really helps us out. We really do appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm going to go cry in the corner. Go Bulls.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.